Welcome. This is Don't Evolve Me, Episode 2, State of Review, the MCU. And this was supposed to be just part 1 of 2, and this got a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. I planned for about 4 hours between 2 parts, and we spent 3.5 on part 1 alone. So we're going to do something different. And I think we're going to split this to 5 parts. So this is part 1 of 5. Phase 1. Alright, cue the music. Alright, welcome to Don't Evolve Me, Episode 2, State of Review, doing the MCU. This is part 1 of 2. I have guests Ernie Gardner and guest who just wants to be audience member, but he's actually a guest, Romero. Artichoke green. I had it prepped and then I forgot about it.
Artichoke green. Been slacking lately.
I have been slacking. How you guys doing?
Hey, good.
Oh boy, I did not.
Fucking it up, man.
I fucked it up. All right. So, tell us about you guys.
Tell us about me. I'm Ernie. I was here. I've been watching Marvel movies. I remember Spider-Man, the first one with Tobey, the Godfather. That was my first Marvel movie. First movie I watched in theaters, actually.
Wait, that's your first one in theaters?
Yeah, 2002, May 2002. Yeah. That's what I was 11 years old.
Mine was Toy Story.
Okay. No, actually, I lied. I watched Armageddon. Armageddon was my first movie. Bruce Willis in theaters. Then that was my second one. That was the first.
That was rated R, isn't it?
Yeah, I got took with my mom's boyfriend at that time. He wanted to see it.
All right, nice.
And then the Spider-Man movie was the first one I seen on my own.
All right.
Yeah, gave my first jump scare
No.
when he's flashbacking. Green Goblin's flashbacking. Osborn.
Flashbacking?
Yeah. Remember when he was like in the office? And I'm like, what happened? He was kind of thinking. Whoosh,
oh yeah. I was thinking like when he was he pretended to be the old woman in the burning building, because that's a jump scare right there.
Yeah, that was a little bit. Forgot about that one. Yeah.
First, what's your first Marvel movie? First MCU movie?
Iron Man.
Iron Man in theaters?
Yep.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Ro?
Yep. It would be Iron Man, first MCU movie.
What was your first experience into Marvel or superheroes, nerd?
Overall?
Yeah.
Oh God. Probably first. If we're really talking like nerdy stuff, my first experience, everybody knows it's Dragon Ball. I started watching watching that when I was 8 years old.
I mean, Goku is a superhero. Let's get it real.
He's top tier in his own right.
Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah, Dragon Ball Z probably first one too.
But as far as
also plug away. This is Romero Green from the Symposium Podcast.
No, they don't need to know that. I'm just an audience member, dude. No one needs to know about that shit.
Plug away.
No one needs to know about that today.
I'm getting on that too.
Good.
That's right. He's coming up soon.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I'm doing everything, man.
Oh, good.
Starting my own too soon, hopefully.
Oh yeah, with fantasy
February.
football.
Yeah.
Plug away.
Yeah, fantasy football. No name yet. We're going for it next year.
No name podcast. I feel like that's taken.
Well, no name for it yet. I don't have a name for it.
That's a good name right there. Welcome to the No Name Podcast.
No name
It's good. Shit. I'm sure that's taken by several people.
I
But yeah, nerdiness would be Dragon Ball. Just to be clear, we're talking like original Dragon Ball. When Goku was a kid.
Nice.
Okay.
And then
never watched that one.
Oh, you gotta watch it. That's the start.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there a lot of filler? Or like little kids just screaming halfway through the episode, and then it goes for several episodes? No.
No.
Okay. Maybe I can watch this one.
Go for it. I highly recommend. It's a good one.
All right.
Marvel was probably Spider-Man. That's a lie. It was X-Men, the animated series.
Ooh, nice.
And then it went from that to
it's coming
Spider-Man.
back too.
Yeah, that's right.
It's coming back. I tried getting into it. It's hard. It's dated. It's good though.
Yeah.
It's a little dated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have to get in the right mood.
Okay.
Some of the older stuff I have to just get in the right mood to watch it.
That's fair.
So my first superhero experience I think is Static Shock or Batman Beyond. Static Shock is like when I first really got into it.
Mm-hmm.
My love for superheroes altogether though was like Spider-Man. The first one in theaters, Spider-Man 2, but Toy Story was my first one in theaters. But yeah, Spider-Man was kind of like my first love for superheroes. But I think I probably watched Batman sooner than that, just because of the animated series and Batman Beyond.
Sure.
I
watched a lot of Teen Titans. I love Teen
Titans.
Oh,
Teen Titans, yes.
Yeah, a lot of Teen Titans.
But Spider-Man was my favorite. Anytime, like, because there was the old animated series, so I watched that when it was on. Man, it's always with the watches.
Sorry, man.
I know, that's gonna say his watch is going on and off, and I was like, what is beeping? But so yeah, Spider-Man was kind of like my first love, and then yeah, the trilogy, Tobey Maguire. I mean, that really got me into it. For MCU, I was kind of a late bloomer when it comes to MCU. I was kind of going into my cynic teenage years. Like when Dark Knight came out, I was like, I was like wanting that movie to fail. I don't even know why. I don't know why, but I wanted that movie to fail. Maybe that's why I think it's overrated. Even though I hot take right there.
How I feel about Shazam. I was hoping that movie
Shazam?
Yeah. Oh, I was hoping that movie was going to succeed. We'll get into that. All right. Actually, we're not.
There's some beef here, man.
Oh, it's going to get hot. It's going to get hot the second one in. Yeah, so my first like MCU movie I watched in theaters was Captain America: First Avenger. Me and my girlfriend at the time, high school girlfriend. This was like I think before my first year in college. We started watching movies like it seemed like every weekend we were going to movies. So Captain America came out. I was like, oh, we'll watch it. Freaking loved it. Fell in love with it, and then I watched all of them. And then I believe Avengers was the next one after Captain America, and then that was just a huge event. And yeah, after that I just exploded into superheroes, and then you guys can tell that it kind of just took over because.
Nah, you don't say.
Well, for the people who can't see my room, I have comics all over the place. I have a whole shelf full of Pop Funko figures, and then across the room I have about 2,000 to 3,000 comics in boxes.
Nice, beautiful.
So, all right, should we get into it?
Yeah.
All right, ratings guide. So this is what I should have done this the first episode, but this is the ratings I'm going to be using for this podcast. Very simple, 1 through 5 with little variations. So the first rating, number 1, is these movies are trash. Like these are the worst of the worst. Hard to get through. They're not even enjoyable to watch. So examples: Avatar: The Last Airbender with M. Night Shyamalan, trash. I couldn't watch it for more than 20 minutes.
Just to be clear, it's not called Avatar: The Last Airbender.
It's just the last.
It's called The Last Airbender.
Right. I was like, I was debating. I should have looked it up before writing it down.
We all know what's going on there.
Yeah, we do.
It doesn't matter.
It happened. We're moving forward.
Other movie. I don't know if I'm doing this one in the future. I'm trying to like not do movies. We'll do I'm gonna review in the future. Fantastic Four with the 4 in the title. Just a trash movie. You don't need to watch it. It's just bad. Yeah. So yeah, number 1, trash. These are just trash films. 2, these are meh films. Critically, they're not the greatest, but they're enjoyable. They have some entertainment value. Usually, you have to get drunk to watch them. But there are some fans who like these movies. They're just meh. My example is Mortal Kombat, either the first one or the new one. The first one I actually really, really enjoy, so part of me wants to give it a 3, but like critically when I think about it, it's not that great of a film, but it's really enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
3, these movies are just good. If you want to nitpick at them, I'm sure there's lots of flaws, but these movies are just solid. They're solid fun. Just enjoy them. I have Sonic, the first Sonic on here, as an example. For 4, these movies are great. Like if you can nitpick some little bits and pieces, but these movies are great films and universally viewed as great. My example, I have Ghostbusters. I would also say Scott Pilgrim, even though 2 people in this room would disagree with that.
You want to die in your podcast, don't you? Like, you just,
second episode.
My murder will be recorded, and I will state who it is in the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
Hey, it might be one of the most. It'd be a very popular podcast if you guys were to murder me on this.
Dude, what are you doing? What's wrong with you?
I'm just stating. All right. 5. This is best of the best. This is like the elite group. This is the best of its genre. I have The Dark Knight as 5, even though I just said it was overrated. I still think it's overrated, but I do think it's a 5. I know. I'm contradicting myself. I'm contradicting myself.
Fair enough, though. Okay.
And then in between these, we have plus and minuses. So the plus and minuses, it's. For example, I have Mortal Kombat as number 2. I have it as a meh, but I'm kind of thinking it's a 3. So that one I'm going to put as a 2+. That one's like, it's kind of a good film. It's when you're on the edge, and if it's a 2+, it's where you're leaning. If it's a 3-, you're like, it's a good film, but it's kind of meh. Mm-hmm. So that's the plus and minuses. All right. You guys understand the ratings? Mm-hmm. All right, should we get into it?
Let's go.
All right. Phase 1. Starting with Iron Man. Alright, so I'm going to tell my ratings first, and then Ernie tells yours, and then Ro, you can chip in with yours whenever you feel like it. Whenever you feel like to being a guest instead of an audience. Alright.
See?
So my first original ranking, I don't know why I put it here, because I didn't do plus minuses for my first ranking. I just put it in a tier list, and I still have it. I'll even like print I'll probably post it on the site whenever I get that site going. I have my first ranking as a 3, but my second ranking I have as a 4-. I think it's a great film, but borderline just good. And Ernie, you want to tell?
Well, I had to think this one through because. Looking back as a kid, I gave it like a 4.
Yeah.
Thinking about it again, I probably give it like a 3+, 4-, just because I know its significance now.
Oh man, you told me 4 on you.
Yeah, I know, but I give you 4 there, but I'm still thinking it. I'm probably gonna go 4- just because.
4-, okay.
Yeah. I just think
don't be changed just because you hear mine.
No, man, why you put that man out?
No, I'm not changing because of that. I'm just like, my ratings can change by the day if I really wanted to.
Yeah.
But I just think it's a very solid movie. It's
I think the biggest flaw that this movie has, other than the villain problem, which I don't think the villain's bad, but I think the biggest flaw of this movie, and it's not even a flaw, it's an origin film.
Yeah.
And I think you'll see it in my ratings, and I think your ratings seem to reflect this too. Origin films are hard to like get into because you spend so much time just getting to know the character, and you spend so much time with just the main character that the villain itself doesn't have time to shine. Right. I do think this. I only have one other film that I'm considering, and that's a Part 2 film that might be the best origin film in the MCU. But I think this is definitely up there as like the best origin film, and one of the better origin films in superheroes. Okay. So if we did like an origin film, this might be a 5, just based on that criteria.
Well, here's my thought on it. It's probably it's one of those movies that like you look back, like after you watch the entire phases and all we go through, you look back and say, okay, now I understand why I like that before. Probably like in the moment, it's probably like a 3, 3+, because like you said, it's an origin story, and you're just kind of learning the character, learning his ins and outs. But I think I've grown to like respect it, and now I've seen how Tony Stark had evolved throughout the phases and throughout the MCU. Now I liked it as a 4,
Yeah.
But I think in the moment you could easily give it a 3+ in that. But I think it's just like looking back after watching Tony Stark grow, character develop throughout the series.
He's such a douche in this movie.
He is.
And I like it because I like seeing because we know now where he ends up. In this movie, it's like, oh, he's such a douche. It's like, but we know where he gets to, and it's such a cool journey. And that's the start of the journey.
Right. That's why I give it a 4. Because now I know the journey.
And is it now a 4 or is it a 4-?
We'll go 4- because I can see how people feel, but I think personally,
this is your ratings.
Yeah.
There's some ratings in here. I'm like, you're definitely against the grain here.
Yeah. And we'll get to that too, but
very next
I'll stick with my. I'll stick with a solid 4 with that. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say on it. I watched it recently. I think in the last year. I didn't rewatch all these movies, but for the majority of the Infinity Saga, I rewatched with my stepson Scott, and this movie I enjoyed a lot more than I remembered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's just a cool start. It's a cool beginning, and it is actually for an origin film. It's one of the better origin films.
I agree.
You got any more to say, Rob?
Any thoughts?
Iron Man was a 3.
Huh?
Iron Man was a 3.
3?
Yeah.
3. So, all
That's
right.
fair. Yeah. That's good.
I mean, it's a good film. I think 3 plus. If you would have said 3 plus, I'd be like, yeah, I don't really have any arguments.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a little bit above a 3, but all right. Oh boy, Iron Man 2.
Let's go.
5.
Let's go.
You're giving it a 5. Get out. Like, Ernie's at least kind of reasonable.
I don't give a shit.
All right. Go, I'll let you.
Okay.
I'll let you have the floor and start this one.
Oh, you want me to start this one?
Yeah.
Or you
I'll
okay.
give you the floor on this one, then I'll give my thoughts.
So, I feel like I have at least like audience consensus on this one.
Fucking hater.
Which is weird. I did not think that you guys coming in here would be like in the minority on this.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird. I have it as a 2 plus.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's a mid plus. Here's the thing. This movie is enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna give it the positive. It's a really, really enjoyable film. Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. He's at his finest. Like he's having fun with it. It's great. There's a lot of cool things in this movie, right? So I can't think of the actor's name who plays Whiplash. Whiplash is in it.
It's not.
I can never think of his name.
Oh,
Trejo? Not Dan Trejo.
no. It's
We are embarrassing ourselves.
Mike Rooney. What's his name?
That might be it.
I'm just gonna like look at it.
No. Oh God, Nikki.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna make. That's gonna.
You guys.
We're struggling.
Mickey Rourke.
There you go.
I was going way off.
I knew you had it with that Rooney.
Yeah, it's like
I know
close.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this movie had Mickey Rourke in it as Whiplash. Sam Worthington, I believe, is Justin Hammer. He's really good at that character. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of things going on. You have Whiplash as a villain. It's kind of a revenge story. You have Justin Hammer. You kind of have like that equal to Tony Stark. You have the government wanting his suits. You have Shield kind of being up. Nick Fury makes an appearance. You have Black Widow making her first appearance. Mm-hmm. You have the drinking storyline because, well, to start, you have Tony Stark. He's dying because of the metal in his body, the shrapnel. With that comes the drinking storyline that he's famous for. He has his fight with Rhodey. Thank you. I'm blinking. I have a problem with blinking. I discussed in the first episode, so I'm so glad I have guests because I would be struggling through this entire thing.
Shout out to Don Cheadle.
Yep, Don Cheadle, who's great as Rhodey.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot think of his like superhero name.
War Machine.
Yeah, War Machine. I'm pretty sure it's
somewhere up there. I think I've seen it.
Yeah, I think I have War Machine up there. So you have that storyline. You have their buddy relationship. So you have all these cool things, but here's the problem with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
You have all these cool things, but there's too many cool things. There's too much stuff that they try to do with this film, and they don't do any of it great. Other than maybe the relationship between Rhodey and Tony Stark.
Okay.
Because Whiplash, it was a revenge one, and they don't really dive deep. Mm-hmm. They don't really dive deep into the Justin Hammer storyline. They don't really, after the first kind of sequence with them, the government wanting his suits, they don't really go deep with that. Mm-hmm. Black Widow makes an appearance, but that's about it. Nick Fury makes an appearance, that's about it. It's an enjoyable film. It's just it's a messy film, and they try to do too much in this movie. So that's why it's a myth film, and at least critically. Okay. It's enjoyable. I mean, the next movie I have on here, spoiler alert, Hulk, I have it as a 2. I'm spoiling my own podcast. Like, if you had to give me one of those 2 films, and I rate them, actually, Hulk might be a 2 plus. Anyway, regardless, I'd rather watch Iron Man 2. even if I think critically Hulk might be better, Iron Man 2 is way more enjoyable. There's other films that are on here that I gave it 2. Iron Man 2 is way more enjoyable. So I'll give it that. That's why I have it as a plus. If you guys said 3 minus, I could give you there because it's there. Mm-hmm. It's borderline. Mm-hmm. I just don't think it's a great film. And definitely not an elite film.
I don't care what you say.
Alright. Counter. Argue.
Okay. Here's my thing with Iron Man 2. I agree with all those points that they try to do a lot with it.
Yeah. You
gotta take it with a grain of salt. I initially gave it a 4 minus. I'll probably change it to like a 3 plus. But
I convinced them.
The way I look at it is like where they kind of dropped the ball is that Whiplash is one of his better enemies, and it kind of just met him. Met, is that a verb?
Yeah, you can go with that.
He met him, but I think it really
it doesn't work.
You know what I'm trying to say though?
No,
I
makes sense.
We get you. Yeah.
It makes sense. I was thinking too hard of the meth word.
We got stuck on the word.
The word meth. Yeah. The reason I really like it is because they really dive into who Tony Stark really is. Like they say, you touched on the drinking part.
Yep.
He's dying. The whole government taking his suits thing. It kind of dives into a lot of the issues with him, like go into his family a little bit. He created the element, and then he obviously already had him. I think that's where they got a little messy too.
Didn't they give Pepper Potts the CEO position in this movie too?
Yeah.
I didn't even touch on that.
So you dive into their kind of relationship.
Yep.
You kind of really dive into who, not so much. I think the way I want to put it is Iron Man, the first one, the original one, is about Iron Man.
Yep.
Iron Man 2 is about Tony Stark. And that's what I kind of like.
It's a good way to put it.
If you kind of think
I get it. I have a counterpoint, but I'm going to save it for Iron Man 3.
Do we even have to talk about Iron Man 3?
We got to talk about Iron Man 3.
Okay. But that's kind of how I see it and why I like it personally. I can see why people don't like it, and a lot of people give it a lot of flack, and it's justifiable. Yeah. That's fair.
And that's why I gave it a 2, and that's why I kind of say like there's fans of like the 2 like movies that I put in the 2 or like movies I see that are 2s. People have like there's fans of those movies.
Yeah.
Not to just say that you're just a fan, but like there's fans of those movies that enjoy those movies. There's reasons to enjoy those movies, and that's why I put it as a 2 plus.
Okay, so like I said, I gave it a 4 minus because I was just in my feelings because we literally got into it that day about it.
That's very honest.
But in reality, I'd probably give it a 3 plus.
Okay.
I just really liked it because I said to make that point. I just feel like it's the Tony Stark film.
This is one of your favorites too, isn't it?
It is one of my favorites. Yes.
Yeah, and I have a movie on here that we can discuss. I think. But yeah, we're not too different. Like I have a movie on here that's one of my favorites, and when we get to it, I'll say like this is one of my favorite movies of the MCU. I don't have it rated as like a 5 or anything, but I do have it rated high, and I wonder if I have it too high. But when we get to it, we'll discuss it.
To add one more thing, it kind of it shows that Tony is unique in who he is. Like no one can like really duplicate him. Like they try to make the bots and do all that stuff, but
there's a lot of cool things in the movie.
Yeah,
so, and I think it's just again.
I think I agree with you to the point where they should have took like maybe like 2 or 3 of those storylines and just ran with that instead of like trying to do like 5 different things in one movie. That's where it gets a little messy. I agree with that, but I just think overall it's a very solid, good movie.
I think this movie would have been better if they didn't have Whiplash. And they kind of just had Justin Hammer be like the main villain, and
I'd give you that one.
And they tried to just mirror Justin Hammer, and like they just reflect it. Like that's like my writer brain was just like that's what I would do to make this movie better. Yeah. But I want to see a movie with like a really good Whiplash.
Yes, I agree with that.
So it's sad. Like I don't want to take him out, but I feel like if you take him out, this movie would be a little bit better. Okay. Bro. All right. We have guest Romero.
Okay.
Aang, the Last Airbender, green.
That's good. I like that one. I like that one. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I don't really consider it a 5. If I ever considered it that high, it would be for personal reasons. That was the first movie that I ever saw. That was the first time I saw a movie with my wife.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
First time.
All right.
But outside of that nonsense, I would give it a 4 plus. And the reason that I would give it that there is a lot going on in that movie.
Yep.
And you can be like, God, this is really chaotic. But you got to understand, we're talking about the MCU.
Yep.
There's always chaos going on. You're always getting introduced to something. And you have to think about the subtleties. Like Black Widow, you have nerds and then you have the casual MCU fan. Yep. So they can see this person and be like, oh, it's Black Widow. They have no idea really who that character is.
Oh, her name Natasha? I forget what her
Natasha.
But like, her name's Natasha.
And see, I picked up, and I think that's why I liked it too. Like you said that, because I picked up on that right away.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of Easter eggs in this movie, and then this is like, so I started after this movie, but like if you were a nerd during this movie, I can see like why you would enjoy this a lot more. So there's a lot of Easter eggs. I watched it after the fact.
Same with Nick Fury. No one really understands how big his role is, and just this very very small subtle thing. For nerds, like be it movies or just comic books, you should still be excited about it.
Yeah.
The event where it said the Avengers initiation.
Yep.
You had no idea that coming down the road, there was going to be a movie. Like, yeah, it's going to happen, but you had no idea how big it was going to be.
Right. Yeah. I heard this before, so this isn't like a...
War Machine as well, him being introduced. It's like, oh, yeah.
Well, he was introduced last one, but like...
No. Stop the hate.
Okay, now stop. They gave the Easter egg. He's not wrong. In a way, he kind of...
Yeah, in the first one.
I mean, Rhodey was introduced in the first one. War Machine was introduced in this one. So I'll give you that. So, again, back to what I was saying. Iron Man is the first movie in the MCU. I heard this being told, and Iron Man 2 is the first MCU movie.
I would agree with that.
Fair, yeah.
I would absolutely agree with that.
This is like the first movie where they're like, okay, let's world build. Because the first one's all about Iron Man, this one's about world building, which I think was detrimental almost to this film itself, but very vital to the MCU. I will say that it is a very vital film.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I'm going to take it back and get deal with these on you. When you guys first started and we were still getting to know each other, I remember we had this discussion.
Yep.
You remember this? We were talking about this, and I'm like, we were talking about Marvel. I don't know how we even got on that, but it was me, him, and Tom, one of our coworkers. And I said that. I literally said those exact words. It may not be the best film in the MCU, but it is one of the most
remember you saying this,
one of the most important ones in the MCU.
Yeah. And I don't...
That's facts.
I don't know if
big facts.
Yeah, no, it's one of the most important ones. I don't know if it's like watching-wise, it's like after the fact, but it did start the MCU.
Yeah, and that's why I think I also gave it like that up because the first, you said it perfect. It's the first movie for the MCU, and that's what really started the world building. And it's just
Yeah, because you go back to Iron Man. I don't know about for you guys, but for me, you go to Iron Man. Iron Man is a good movie. Yeah, it's a solid movie in terms of building. I wouldn't even say the MCU, but more of the MCU character. Like you see, okay, this is Iron Man. Yeah. But when you watch Iron Man 2, then you get a feel for that universe. It's like, oh, there's way more shit going on. Yeah, and then someone in the background's like, there's more to come. Yeah. So that's why I give it that rating.
Well, that's the after credit scene with the hammer.
Yeah, so just like that, towards the end, you see, what's his name? Who works for S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Coulson.
Yeah, you see Coulson in Mexico, and then you briefly see Thor's hammer. Again, the average MCU watcher, they have no idea what's going on. They're gonna be like, "What the fuck is going on? What's that hammer? What's this about?"
It'd be nice to be just a casual who didn't know.
Yeah.
What's that? Why is
there a hammer? Kids,
kids. You talk to a kid. Every movie for them would probably be a 5.
But it's kind of cool for nerds too when they have like those very subtle references. You're like, oh hey, are they actually doing this? Are they teasing it?
So that's my rating. Okay.
Right. And he goes
back to the audience.
He goes 2 feet back into a different chair.
Shut up.
All right, next one, The Incredible Hulk. You didn't give me a rating for this one.
That's a 2.
So my first rating was a 2, and then my second rating I did 2+, and I only did a 2+ for one reason, because I remember watching this film, and I remember actually really enjoying it for the first half, because I thought it was very different from the MCU. It was just intriguing. It was just Bruce Banner on the run, and I'm like, I like this. I'm enjoying it. And then it became an MCU slugfest at the end that I didn't understand what's going on. What was it? Blonsky.
Something like that.
Yeah, so he becomes Abomination, like and then the leader happens, and I'm like, I don't even understand what's happening, and now they're fighting each other. It's one of those films I'm like, okay, I don't know what happened here. Like, I enjoyed it, and then I was like, eh. Because it's not like normal MCU, like, slugfest, where it's like, you know, they have, like, the quips, and it's fun and exciting. It's a boring, like, CGI. Like, this is the first movie.
Like a monster film.
This is the first movie that wasn't, like, Marvel. It was Paramount, so it's different.
Yeah.
So, I have it as 2+.
I thought that was Universal.
Is it Universal?
The first one was Hulk was Universal. I think this one. I think he's right. I think
It's Paramount.
Yeah, it don't matter.
It don't matter.
This is one of the few films that I actually skip. I don't know if it's skippable anymore after She-Hulk and after Civil War a little bit.
You
I don't
have to watch it.
Yeah, it's still, if someone's like, I'm gonna skip it, I'm not gonna argue with them. But it's like,
and like you said, I didn't give a rating to it. On the fly, I'll give it a 2. I just, there's nothing great about it. It's just the way the only way I can really put it is like, it's just a movie. Like, it's just a
it's there.
It's just there.
It's there. It's skippable, but they're now they're now referencing it, so it's like less skippable.
The way I put it is like, if the like you said, like the nerds watching it, they'll get it and be okay. Like, they know what's going on. That's all they need to know. Like, it's not a movie for.
I don't tell a casual to watch it.
It's not for a casual kind of thing. Like, I don't know. It's just there. It doesn't really fit. It doesn't really wow me. Doesn't.
Yeah, and it's really confusing because Edward Norton is Hulk. And
Which I was gonna say, personal opinion, what would have made that movie just good? Like, you watching it, like novelty, right? If you watched it and you were to go back to it and be like, oh yeah, I remember this. If they got the character right, if they just started with Mark Ruffalo, if they had started with him, I honestly would have think it'd have been just a little bit better. Because Edward Norton,
I think so.
Like, watching that whole thing, I'm like,
it's not believable.
Yeah.
Even though it was just weird to say for a superhero movie, like, it's not believable.
And he's such a good actor too, but I heard a lot of rumors about, like, behind the scenes, he was just an asshole then. Like, he was just there for the money rather than, like, he really wanted to be there. Which is why he got replaced at the end of the day.
See? Case in point. Mark Ruffalo is just... When he became the Hulk, I believed it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah.
Well, he enjoyed it. He's like in it.
Yeah, he loves that role. Yeah.
So, and like, when actors love their roles, we love them in that role. Whereas if they hate the role, it's like, ugh. Like, I heard rumors that, like, Pedro Pascal didn't like playing the Mandalorian. And I was like, no, stop. Like, I enjoy it. You like it.
You love what you do.
And I heard, like, he was like an asshole being on set. I'm like, no, stop it. You're a good person. You like the role. I enjoy you in this role. I don't want to not like you.
Alright.
So, alright. Moving on to Thor. Just Thor. You guys start.
When we start this one?
Yeah.
I give it a solid 3.
3? I have you down as a 3+.
Did I put it a 3+?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did like it 3+. I just like Thor. But
It's fair. It's fair.
good origin story.
Yeah.
You know, I can see how my brother's one, and my brother thinks it's like top notch for some reason. It's a great movie.
Really?
Yeah. Which, I mean, sure, fine.
Bro?
But I mean, solid 3+.
3? Alright, so when I first did the rankings, I did this as a 2. And I thought about it a little bit some more. Because I think this is one of the more boring MCU movies.
Yeah.
But it's not terrible.
I think it tells the story well.
Yeah. I have it as a 3-. It's one of those, like, movies when I rewatch it, like, they made their own set in the middle of the desert, and they made this own town, and it's just like, when I watch it, I'm like, it just feels like a B movie almost. Sometimes, because like, you have all these, like, the costumes are good, but it's just with the background, it just kind of feels like a B movie. But I do enjoy Loki in this one. I do enjoy, like, the cameos with, like, Hawkeye and stuff. That's really cool. I think this movie's just so small that it's borderline meh for me. But I'm like, no, it's good. Like, when I look at the like the framework of the movie, I'm like, it's a solid film. It's good. It's just not quite MCU quality yet.
I think you put it well. Like I said, it tells the story well, but it's just very boring.
Yeah.
Which is weird to say for a Thor movie, but
Yeah,
I think this is what it is. I think it's
after Ragnarok and Love and Thunder, we're like, oh, the fruit.
But
very different movies.
Yeah.
And like the big action scene at the end is them against the destroyer in the middle of the desert, and it's like it's fine for phase one, but coming back to him like, oh, this is very small scale. I'm pretty sure the budget for this movie.
Yeah, it wasn't very high.
Yeah,
I was fine with it.
But a lot of them were like that for phase one.
And then the next one had a little bit bigger of a budget.
Yeah, and the same for phase 3, same for phase 4.
Yeah, well, we'll get into the next one after this, Captain America, and we can talk about it because it seems like that budget was a little bit higher. We can check what budgets are.
Thor was a 3, but I will say that was the first time that you really saw that character, like in a live action. You're like, oh, I believe it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I really liked how he did with Asgard.
Yeah.
Because they had Odin with Anthony Hopkins. Loki's amazing in this one.
Yeah.
This is like the love for Loki starts. Tom Hiddleston's freaking amazing. He's supposed to be Thor too. And that's such a weird universe where like, what if Tom Hiddleston was Thor? But he's so good as like Loki. I think Loki kind of carries this movie on. Now I don't want to say carry, but he definitely he's like the top. Like
he's the one who brings it up.
Yeah. So if you're like, oh yeah, Loki's the reason why this is a 3, not a 3 minus. I can agree with that.
Again, another subtlety. I did not expect Loki to be the big baddie in the first Avengers movie. Yeah. So when you see him in Thor, you don't think that much of it.
Yeah,
it's like a good character. But then as time goes on,
it's such an interesting choice. Yeah, I like how this movie like has a villain, but like Loki's like the villain, but he's not like the villain. He's more of an anti-hero, and it's just kind of it's just nice to see. I like the politics between brothers. Odin. This is Odin's rest.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that like all the characters fit. Like everyone's perfect in their roles.
It's solid.
Big up to Anthony Hopkins. How the fuck did they pull that one off?
Yeah, for real.
You want to do Thor?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, why not?
Sure.
Alright, any more to say on this one?
No.
Alright, moving on to Captain America, the First Avenger. So I am ashamed because my first ranking, I put this as a 2.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Do you want to die?
This is 2 years ago. My first ranking was a 2. And I think it was because it was like, I was just down on phase 1. Everything's like 2 other than Iron Man and the Avengers. Rewatching it, ranking it now, I put it as a solid 3. I think it's a good film. I think it has the phase 1 kind of, feel to it. It's a little boring. It's a little dry. I think the most interesting part of the film is a montage, which I think kind of kills it because like, this whole film is about origin stories of Captain America, which is another hindrance. Origin films it's hard to get into it. And then he finally becomes Captain America, and then they just montage for like 10 minutes of all these action sequences, and it's like he's fought this whole war for who knows how long, and then it was like the end.
Okay.
And that's where like this film like could have been a little bit better. This is a movie that I think could have been a 5 if like the directors of like Civil War and Winter Soldier did this movie. This movie could have been a 5 easily.
The Russo brothers?
Yeah, the Russo brothers. Shout out to Community. 6 seasons in a movie.
6 seasons in a movie?
It's happening. They're filming in July.
Shut up! Are you lying?
Yeah. No, I'm not lying. No, they're filming in July. Joe McHale confirmed it. They don't know if what's her name? Shirley, the actress who plays Shirley, and then Donald Glover. They don't know if they're coming back yet.
Oh man.
So I know it's tough not to do like.
You can't do that.
Donald Glover needs to at least make an appearance.
I feel like he would.
Yeah. Well, he like pitched the film. Okay, we're getting on Community.
Yeah. Sorry.
Good show. I love that show.
Great show.
Very relevant because there's so many Community cameos in the MCU, so it's very, very relevant. But we'll get to it later once the Russo brothers make their appearance in this review. So yeah, Captain America, like the First Avenger, like it's a good, solid film. It's enjoyable. I think this is like the first movie like first movie like I got it. This is a movie that got me into the MCU, and I really enjoyed it when I watched it. I probably would have gave it a 4 when it first came out, but that's kind of recency bias. You enjoy the things you just watch.
Right.
But yeah, coming back to it, it's a solid film. I think it's better than Thor. I think it's his third best movie. At some point, I think I had it higher than Iron Man, but now after the rewatch, it's lower than it, but just a little bit. But yeah, that's fine. That's my take on it.
Well, I initially gave it a 4 minus, I believe. Is that what I gave it?
Yeah, you gave
4 minus.
4 minus.
I'll probably just keep it there, just because I think it's the best origin story of the Thor, Iron Man. I'd probably give it the best origin story.
Agree with that.
I just think it actually just hits the points of who he is as a person.
Yep.
Which reflects him as a superhero going forward. He's one of the most consistent people, and I think they kind of hit on that. They do kind of. I agree with that. They kind of just throw him in there, and then hey, okay, now he's Captain America. Save the world. So they do that, which kind of annoyed me. But this is this really good movie. It's all the points of a good origin story. Cameo at the end was beautiful.
Yep.
That was a good. I think it was a great segue.
Ooh, the after credits is amazing. I actually really enjoyed is it the after credits or is it?
It's the after credits, yeah.
Yeah,
he dunks it and then they go get him. Yeah, but that's probably one of my favorite after credit scenes. I think it was a perfect segue to Avengers.
I agree.
Yeah.
Perfect way.
Okay, do you consider those? Do you consider like post credit scenes a part of the film, or is that something different?
I feel like it shouldn't affect the rating. If that makes sense, like it's part of the film, but it shouldn't. Like it's hyped for
it over the top.
It's a transition to the next film, but I don't feel like if your best scene is your after credit scene, or if that's like a highlight of it, it's
like a cheap shot.
Yeah, I don't know.
I also like it for its importance.
Yeah.
I guess that's more for me, like watching them all and then looking back. I see its importance, so.
A lot of these films I kind of forget like what the after credit scene is, and a lot of times like some of the after credit scenes like at the time it's huge, but it's also just other scenes in other movies where you're like, now after the rewatch it's like, oh, we're gonna watch that again.
Right. Also, and another thing with Captain America, I don't know if I'm gonna bias, but it's my favorite saga, and it wasn't at first. Thor was. Yeah. But after I watched them again.
Oh, it is.
It's probably the best. It's
best
the best
one.
Saga.
Chef's kiss.
We should. Let's save the best trilogy towards the end. Probably in part 2, we'll do the best trilogy. We'll throw up that question. But yeah, no, Captain America. It's gonna be hard to beat Captain America. I think there's some that might get it, or like best film series.
I think this is my personal opinion. I think. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think Doctor Strange has a chance to dethrone it, in my personal opinion, because
interesting.
I feel like the last film was going to have to be amazing for it to happen. Like,
but you're a Doctor Strange fan.
I do like Doctor Strange.
I enjoy Doctor Strange too. I'm cheering for it.
Yeah,
but
it has a chance.
I think it needs to be a 5 though.
Yeah. I think Guardians. You throw Guardians in there, and that kind of mix. If you want to do trilogies, I mean, okay.
But we're kind of getting deep into it.
But okay. Solid 3+, 4 minus for my heart, 3+ objectively is what I'd say.
That's fair.
Okay. 4 minus.
4 minus?
4 minus.
I think Captain America: First Avenger is like the one that has a lot of validity. As in, I've seen people rate it like it's like a 2 or like very low. It's on the like overall Marvel rankings. I think a lot of it is just because it has the Phase 1
feel to it.
Yeah, feel to it. But then there's some that I think it's one of the best films in the MCU because there's a lot to it. Red Skull is a very interesting villain.
Yeah, exactly. That's my heart speaking that it's a 4 minus.
I feel like they did him a little disservice just because it's an origin film. I wish they would have brought him back. I know they do bring him back, but I wish they would have bring him more into the forefront because Red Skull is such an interesting.
He's a villain.
He's a great.
Oh, he is.
He is a villain. So that.
Like his look to him is like, oh yeah, that's a villain. Like you don't even need to know him. You're like, yeah, that's the bad guy.
Him.
He's the bad guy.
We gotta get him.
All right, here's the big one. The Avengers.
I want to hear him start this.
No, you're gonna start. Yeah. Because I'm looking at both of ours. I want to hear yours.
Exactly.
Yes.
guest mode,
The Avenger
G mode.
Green.
Yeah. Backtrack. 4- for Captain America, and the reason that I say that is, out of everything, and this kind of goes along with the whole franchise, the big focus is character development.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Steve Rogers, not Captain America, Steve Rogers, he don't miss.
Yeah.
He's always growing, always. So.
Yeah, that's another interesting talk. The best character.
We got to do character development. I have a lot of good interest in that.
Okay.
But
we'll come back to it.
Outside of that, Red Skull wasn't enough for me. Great villain, just it wasn't there.
Yeah.
Just as you said, I feel it. If the Russo brothers had it, it did it. Mm-hmm. But, and if we're not including after credits, that's a damn shame, because that's the one that, if you look at it as a story, you see everything come full circle. And not only that, but you're seeing the introduction into, okay, this is the big moment. We're about to put our foot in your ass.
I think the after credits, just reflecting back to that point, this one fits the story really, really well. Where a lot of other after credits don't, or it's kind of just like a joke, or this one hits the story. Like this, they do this one really, really well. So I wouldn't because of the after credits scene. Like I kind of just, this one's part of the story. I kind of that's the ending, because I don't even is it an after credits? Is it just the last scene of the film?
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't even know, because in my head it's part of the film.
Yeah, so it's the story.
Yeah.
So 4- there. Avengers.
Now I'm getting into Avengers officially now.
The Holy Grail.
Yeah. This is the movie that did it. This movie would have failed. There was no MCU.
I'd give it, I don't know.
It is a tricky one.
It is.
I don't think I'd give it a 5. If you had asked me this back in 2012, I'd be like, oh, it's a 5, hands down. I'd probably give it a 4, a 4+ for sure.
4+?
Yeah.
Okay, so my first ranking was a 4. Kids, man.
Yeah, little kids.
My second ranking, I put it as a 4. I thought about making it a 4+. But rewatching it, it's a 4 for me. There's flaws in it. It's a great film, but there's flaws in it. Ernie, you want to tell the audience?
What's your rating?
My rating on it? I gave it. I'm pretty sure I gave it a 4, right?
Yeah, I have you as a 4.
Yeah, I gave it a solid 4. The reason I gave it a solid 4 is not so much for the flaws, it's so much for what it didn't do. But that's no here or there.
I mean, kind of.
You can't just. This is the show to talk about here and there.
I think it's a great movie. It just kind of missed. I don't want to say it missed the villain. We kind of got into that with Loki and all.
Yeah.
It missed, because again, it's like the whole Thor thing. Okay, again, Loki's the villain in a way. But this is more this.
Loki was such an interesting choice for a villain. And I don't know if I love it or hate it.
Exactly. I think looking at it, it's just he was great in that. He was very good. It's just that I think they could have went more with it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, they did a good job with doing that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Tom Hiddleston and Loki, for the most part, did excellent in a row. Tom Hiddleston is freaking excellent as Loki. I think Loki was a great villain in this movie. I just think it's such an interesting choice as a villain, because we already know him, but he already lost to Thor. So
yeah, exactly.
And it's
I feel like it's just Loki being Loki more than him being a villain. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
So makes sense. Yeah.
I think this is my biggest gripe against this film, because when you actually just think about this film, it doesn't quite make sense really, because. And it doesn't make sense from the perspective of Loki, right?
Exactly.
So he's supposed to be dead at the end of Thor. He falls into the abyss of what is now space, but at the time it was just the realm, which is another interesting decision. So he falls, and now we don't know this when we first watched this, but now we know this. He falls in the hands of Thanos. He gives him an Infinity Stone. And he's supposed to take over Earth and get the other Infinity Stone, the Tesseract. So that's his goal. And then he goes to the shield. That's the very first scene, which is I think is a really cool scene because you're like, damn, it gets in the thick of action, gets Loki in there. He steals the Tesseract. He gets Hawkeye, which is another interesting choice. We don't see Hawkeye being Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. We see him a little bit in Thor, but in the movie, he was never like Hawkeye, and he's such a great character in the comics. Mm-hmm. Like after reading like Hawkeye in the comics, it's like shit, they did him dirty. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so you have the first scene, and then he goes to Germany, does his whole speech, and then he gets caught, and I'm like, and this movie tries to make it sound like he had this whole plan this entire time, that he was this huge like planner, and he planned to get caught, he planned to make the team, like he knew there was going to be a team, like, okay, that doesn't make sense. How does he know there's going to be a team? He knows there's individuals. How does he know it's going to be a team? He tries to get the Hulk raging. Like, it just doesn't make sense from, like, when you think about it from Loki's perspective, and I think that's where they fail. Where they should have made it better is Loki was just, freeballing it the entire time. He was just, like, freestyling. Like,
that's how I feel.
They should have just made Loki be Loki. Like, he didn't really have a plan. He just thought he can come there, start using his staff, start taking people over, and he'll have his army, like, we'll achieve this thing with an army, we'll figure it out. If they would have played Loki more like that, like the actual god of mischief, he is, chaos almost reincarnated as, like, that would make sense. He gets caught. He didn't plan to get caught, but hey, he figured out a way to get out. He disrupted the Avengers. Like, that would have made him more, like, that would have put it into a 4+, 5- category for me.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But, like, when you don't think about it, great film. It's fun.
But
it's fun. Yeah. We're talking about the negatives of it, but like, let's talk about some of the enjoyable things.
Obviously, the moment brings everyone together. I think
the Joss Whedon dialogue between everybody is just.
I think what's really fun for me personally though is all the little fights I have, like Thor versus Iron Man. Yeah, they do all those fun little fights and stuff that kind of show everyone's power and stuff. Like
when Iron Man and Captain America do the shield and they ricochet, it was based off Alliance, Marvel Alliance, Ultimate Alliance. Yeah, that's like they do those parts really cool, or like the Thor Iron Man fight and they close the trees back. When you just enjoy the film, it's such a great film. When you think about it critically, you start to nitpick at it, and that's why it's a 4 for me. It's a great film.
Yeah,
you can sit back and just enjoy it
for what it is.
There's so many great parts, but if you want to nitpick at it, you can. It's there.
Here's the way I see it, and it could be a reach, but I don't know. I think.
Yeah, argue that plus, man.
I think Disney/Marvel Studios does a good job when it comes to their movies. Not everything is like the best, but there are certain things that they do really well. And if you look at Loki being the big villain in this movie, you're like, they could have done it differently, or they could have got somebody else. At the same time, if you look at the MCU as a whole, right, the Infinity Saga, Thanos is fucking huge. It's a big dude.
This is the start of Thanos.
Yeah. And think about this. Yeah, okay, Loki wants to take over the world, but the farthest that he gets is New York. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's what, like, throughout any movie you hear...
This is a very classic location for Marvel.
You don't hear the battle for the world. You hear the Battle of New York.
Yep.
And that's a perfect start, especially when you're talking about the Avengers, the first Avengers movie. Yeah, okay, sure, they're saving the world in a sense, but the biggest battle takes place in New York.
Yep.
And if you're gonna have a villain, it may as well be Loki.
Yeah. Well, this is an origin film for the Avengers.
Yeah.
And that's the way to look at it. So if you have a new villain, you don't have a lot of time. Whereas Loki, you're
already there.
Just right
there.
there.
He just has to do Loki things. You're like, oh, that's Loki. He's in Thor. So I question the decision. It makes sense though when I think about it critically, and I don't hate it because I enjoyed Loki in this, especially the Hulk scene. Beauty God.
And you get to see like the little instances of character development.
Yeah.
Tony's willing to sacrifice himself for the world. He puts a missile into the thing. You start seeing.
It was a great cap to Phase 1.
Again,
You see the
subtleties.
Yeah,
so
you see the little things
you'll hear this from me. I know I gave you a little preview.
Sorry, Iron Man versus Captain America was coming. Like you saw it in Avengers.
Yes, it started here.
Yeah.
Also, there's such subtleties in this film that I really like. For example, in the lab, Bruce Banner's in Tony Stark's lab on the ship. They're all fighting. If you don't pay attention, you can see the scepter is on. The scepter is the reason why all of them are fighting, and you don't notice it. Joss Whedon does this a lot, because in Age of Ultron we'll talk about it. It's like it's really cool because it's like really cool Easter eggs. Like, oh, that's why that's happening. Oh, but like for a casual, you have no idea. It doesn't make sense.
If you think about it and look back, another subtle thing that if you look back, you think, oh well, yeah, how I'll just say Hulk. I can't think. Bruce Banner. Right?
You got it.
Yeah. I'm blanking right now. He's holding the scepter at them, right? And like Bruce, like holding the scepter.
Yeah.
And then you go all the way to Endgame.
Yeah.
It's mostly Gamma. It's one of those things like you don't pick up on that. It's like, and that's why I had to look back and make this kind of joke. Like, oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
There's a lot of cool Easter eggs. The only downside I would say is great films make that more known. That's my only point. Like great films make it more known. Not great films, elite films.
What do you mean by that?
So like for example, the scepter's going off. Like you can see it, but like it's not there. So like an amazing film would have been like, oh, the scepter's on. It would have been more obvious.
See, I look at it different. I think that makes a good film.
Yeah, the way that it's done this way.
Because like you say, it's put in a way that you should notice it, but you don't think about it unless you're really
but it's such
into
a crucial part of the film.
Is it?
Depends on your level of fanism. I don't know.
Because they're trying to make it. Oh, the Avengers are fighting each other. The Avengers are fighting each other. They're bickering back and forth. They're not coming together as a team. And the scepter is one of the reasons why. You can see it there. You can, if you pay attention, you're like, oh, that's why. But good films, they tell you the story, right? If this was a video game, different. Because video games are about interactive environment. Television shows, movies, they're showing you the narrative. They're force feeding you the narrative. And it's one of those things that got left out. If you pay attention, it's there. It's really cool Easter egg, but it's kind of a vital part.
I don't agree with that. One of the big things in storytelling that I learned is rather than telling the reader.
Show, but no.
Yeah. But you also have to think about it, and I've said this again, it's like there's a difference between the average MCU fan and the one that's really paying attention. If the one that's really paying attention, they'll see that. Case in point.
Who's this movie for?
Everybody.
Exactly, the casuals.
Wait. At the moment, it was for everybody.
Yeah.
It wasn't I remember this. I remember going. It wasn't an event. It wasn't.
That's true.
Oh, I went with 10 people.
Yeah, I went with 10 people. I saw it 3 times, I believe, in theaters. Like it wasn't even about the MCU. It was about the MCU, but it was just more about
the Avengers. It's like
the event. This is what we've been playing up for 4 years. So.
Yep. And to that point, because I mentioned this earlier in conversation, but I didn't want to tell you what this was about because I didn't want to influence anything. One of the reasons why this movie was so great is this movie was a finale. This movie.
Well, we thought.
No, not like a finale for Marvel. This movie was a finale for season or phase 1, or in a way, season 1.
Yeah.
This movie capitulated, all Iron Man and Iron Man 2. Even with his character arc, he was a selfish douchebag of a character. He grown into a hero. He grown into, instead of I'm doing this for my ego, no, I'm doing this to save the world. And he sacrificed himself. He made the big play, which this film highlighted on a lot. Captain America, he was from the past, now he's in the future. What's his place in all this? And they're talking about it. They don't answer it until later, but they brush up on it. Thor, same thing. Loki's back, and now he's this big villain, and he has to deal with the ramifications, and you see that in this film. This movie is, in a way, a season finale, and this is why this movie hit so great. which will bring up to other points of why I think certain films are amazing and why I think certain films aren't that great.
With you saying that, I kind of think like I still give it the rating that I give it, but when you think about it, it's kind of like right there. It's on the cusp of being a 5, and the only reason.
I thought about 5- at a time, like 4 plus 5-.
Yeah.
And then I think about it critically. I went back to a 4.
The only reason that I really say that is because, and it's been done in other genres, if you pay attention. But this is the one franchise that has ever had like big movies and then had all of these characters come into one film. It took multiple films to build this story and then have everyone come together. You've never seen it on this scale.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
This movie, I think culturally wise, it's a 5. But I think critically, like it's a 4 because it like there is some big flaws into it, and I think Loki's plan is like the biggest flaw in all of it, which is a simple fix. He's a god of chaos. He's a god of mischief. Exactly. He doesn't have a plan.
They make him seem like a mastermind when he's really just Loki. When it's just really Loki.
It's just freestyle.
Yeah. I got a question about that. Yeah. Give me your opinions. Okay, so we know that Loki is just a complete agent of chaos.
As he points to me.
Because you are an agent of chaos.
Chaotic.
But you see him being meticulous about things, and you're like, that's not really you. Do you think, because of the person that was backing him, it wasn't so much that was Loki, it was more of there was someone else pulling the strings?
Oh, yeah. I think so. I think they were hinting at it, and like especially at the end with the cameo.
Yeah.
Or not the cameo, the after credit scene with Thanos' face, which when I was in theaters, I was like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking the comics then. I was like, who the fuck is this green guy with like the weird chin?
What's this Hulk purple looking motherfucker?
And then my nerdy friend was like, that's Thanos. I'm like, who the fuck is Thanos? I was very much a casual when I started. Now I know, like, yeah.
Yeah, my brother was the same way. He was like, oh, because he read the comics, he was commenting like, oh, just you wait, that's Thanos.
And the casual's like,
I don't know how deep it goes, but that's my way of thinking. It's like, okay, you know that Loki is always winging it and he's just full of chaos. But if you have someone else that's bigger than him and it's like, okay, let's see what you, like, go ahead, take this opportunity.
I wish this movie would have like played a little bit more on that. Like showed more of like the puppet master in Loki. And I wish they would have done that more.
Well, I think they had
I
agree with that, but I understand why they didn't.
Yeah.
You wanted to keep him as mysterious as possible.
Yeah. I get it. Anyway, we are getting to the hour mark already. I believe. Yeah, we're past an hour mark. So, and we're at the end of phase 1, so we're going to take a short break, and then we'll come back for phase 2.